greenhouse effect is a naturally occurring process that warms our Earth. It takes the light emitted by the sun onto the Earth and reheats our planet so that it creates a stable living space. But unfortunately, this natural process has become harmed by humans today. My claim of fact today is that the greenhouse effect has become increasingly worse due to the human impact. The points I'll be hitting today are that basic everyday items that we use do more damage than people actually think. Second is that the excessive deforestation impacts the greenhouse effect due to the interest of land by humans. And third, that burning of fossil fuels in industry has the biggest effect on the greenhouse effect. So to bring back to my first topic, everyday use. So picture you're in your house, and nowadays everything is run by electricity. Everything you use, from your lights to your TV to even an air conditioner and ventilation system. This is all run by electricity. Well, the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, states that the process of generating electricity is the single largest source of CO2 emissions in the United States, representing 41% of all CO2 emissions. So that basically that 41% is all done by us on our own. We use this electricity for our own use. Therefore, the 41% of the gases in the atmosphere is done by ourselves. So when you're at home and you feel a little warm or feel a little cool and you turn on your air conditioning, know that the CO2 that is harming the greenhouse effect is done by yourself. Also, what has become a big aspect of our lives is commuting. Everyone uses an automobile to get to places from either school to home, home to school, job, whatever. And especially in a place like LA where we get a lot of traffic, the cars emit so much gases that it is harming our atmosphere. Also said by the EPA that automobiles and light-duty trucks account for 2/3 of emissions from the transportation sector, and emissions have steadily grown since 1990. So it's not getting any better from what we do in our everyday lives. So the greenhouse effect is becoming less and less natural. As we move on to excessive deforestation. Deforestation is the act of killing trees, basically. And so the less trees we have in our world, or trees capture the carbon that change into oxygen. So the less trees we have in the world, the more carbon that'll be out in the atmosphere to ruin the greenhouse effect. Stated in the Gale Encyclopedia of Science, prior to any substantial deforestation caused by human activities, Earth's vegetation stored an estimated 990 billion tons of carbon, but now it's only 616 billion tons. That's a 300 billion ton difference. And I don't know about you, but the carbon is pretty substantial if it's 300 billion, and it is. And these people that are doing the act of deforestation are using it for things like building buildings and creating more industry, which leads me to my final topic of burning of fossil fuels. Industry, to create energy, burns the fossil fuels in the air that directly affect the greenhouse effect. Since the Industrial Revolution, carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has increased dramatically due to all the industrial things. So everything we manufacture, everything we make is being directly polluted. Like if you look outside and you see this thin layer of smog out, that's from mainly the industry. And another source of energy they use is coal, which yearly, on average, burns 900 million tons of coal. So, in essence, the greenhouse effect is being harmed by all of us today, whether it is through our everyday life, through building and expanding through deforestation, or just through the industry in general, and is becoming a problem that we face today.
All right, the proposition's clear. The phrasing is a little awkward and broad. Your secondary issues are outlined pretty well, though, and you signposted each of those points as you got to it internally very clearly. The first point, there's some good evidence on concerning the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, the relationship to human activity in terms of creating electricity. The impact of any of this, though, is a little bit uncertain. In other words, how big an impact is it having on the greenhouse effect? Is it something that is something that we should worry about? That all seems to be presupposition instead of strongly developed. If, for instance, we were to suddenly stop generating electricity using the systems that we currently do, what impact would that have on any of the greenhouse process? There's not really any explanation of what that would be, and so it's a little hard to kind of compare that impact. I'm not sure how the first and the third points are supposed to be different from each other, except that in one, you're talking about coal as the source of generating the energy, and in the first one, you don't really identify what the source of energy generation is, because coal produces electricity also, so it's a little bit unclear as to why they are two separate points. The middle point on deforestation needs a lot more development. Is deforestation something, because is that something that is occurring on a regular basis? Is it widespread? The closest we come to anything that's quantifiable on it is the amount of tonnage that's supposed to be absorbed by the trees, and apparently we got 300 billion tons less than we did at one point. That's a pretty conclusionary statement, but the link to deforestation, I think, needs to be a little bit clearer. So your generalization on that second point, I think, is problematic. Presentation issues, it seemed like you were rushing at times. The hand in the back pocket looks awkward the whole time you're standing up there. You got a little bit more time, so you can elaborate more on, I think, some of those secondary points. Now, there also seems to be a big presupposition that the greenhouse effect is either problematic, dangerous, or primarily, that there's not other things offsetting it. So I know that that's not the focus of your argument, but that's the impact of the argument, and so there needs to be more development of that argument, I think, or that issue, I should say. All right, thank you.